Welcome back to Blackthorn Prod. I'm Noah. So this weekend I made a game in under 48 hours called Evolution for Ludum Dare, which is a huge game creation event that challenges developers of all skill levels and from all around the world to make a game in 48 to 72 hours and around a given theme. The theme this time was running out of space. So as usual, the first thing I had to do was come up with an idea, which can actually be the most stressful part of the whole game creation process when it comes down to game jams. There's something quite horrible about getting into a creative block here, because each hour is so precious, and losing a couple because no idea is coming to mind can put you in a tough spot. But luckily enough, I felt pretty inspired. My first idea, based on the running out of space theme, was of a cramped tower defense strategy game, where you would have to place little towers on a small grid-like area, rotate them and defend your base from enemies, all the while making sure your towers didn't hurt each other. But that didn't feel quite right. So I went back to the drawing board and thought of making a weird platformer game about a little squishy human trying to escape Earth, which is overpopulated. The original part of it all being that the camera is slowly rotating to mimic Earth rotating around itself and the sun, which could have led to some pretty interesting levels that end up feeling like a dizzy, puke-inducing nightmare. Once again, I was back at step 1, coming up with an idea. And so after mulling over a couple game concepts in my head, I eventually thought I would run with the story of an overpopulated Earth, which really fitted nicely with the theme of the jam. But instead of making a platformer, I figured I would have fun making a kind of base building game, where you would actively take part in the destruction of the planet by building sophisticated, impressive, and increasingly polluting buildings. Though pollution and overpopulation aren't things that worry me day and night, I can't help feeling a slight anxiety from time to time at the thought of what state the planet will be in, say 50 years from now. And so I felt like making something based on this planet Earth topic, to remind myself and others both how lucky we still are that the Earth is still habitable, filled with wonder, resources and life, but also that we must individually and collectively do our best to really not reach the state of the last few planets depicted in my game. Their actions will have major consequences on our lives and all those coming after us. And so to bring this vision to life, I use as usual the Unity game engine, the C# programming language, Adobe Photoshop for all the arts, and Audacity and Bosca Seoil for sound effects and music. First of all, I began making the green, vibrant and happy looking planet, deciding to go for a colourful, cartoony art style. I wanted to make the planet look the healthiest, happiest possible, so that later down the line, the contrast would be staggering and hopefully mark the player. So I created multiple tree sprites, bright flowers and juicy grass tufts. Then I placed spawn points around the planet, getting each to spawn a random sprite and resulting in a green, lush looking world. It was then time to make buildings that the player could place on the planet, buildings that would lead to the planet's pollution and ultimately destruction. Now I really love drawing characters and monsters. Environments and buildings aren't things I usually draw that much, but I ended up really enjoying the process during this jam. I began making a windmill and quiet little village, but those would then lead to castles, and then electric weird Tesla looking towers, quickly followed up with horrible smoky pipes and skyscrapers. And the only way the player can build these is by doing so on top of the green environment. The player doesn't really have a choice. This game is void of any real fun. It's really just an interactive glimpse at what's currently going on in the world and what may happen in the future. Obviously, I wanted the player to stick right up until the end, so I spent a lot of time making each building and environment piece scale up slightly when the mouse cursor is hovering over them, creating particle effects and explosions. All these little details that make the game feel good and will keep the player clicking away and seeing the planet's evolution. So the planet has 12 states in all, going from a happy, green, smiley and healthy looking world and gradually losing its smile. The green turning into yellow, then grey, red bloody smears disfiguring the surface. Then eventually the planet will turn a nasty red color, gasp in agony, look ready to explode because of all the pollution, greenhouse effect, people and buildings, and then the world will explode, all that's left being the skull of a once vibrant and healthy planet. So I implemented all this into Unity, giving each building what I called a danger level, and depending on the total danger of each building in-game, the planet sprite would change. I also decided to change the color of the sky around the planet, which is basically the camera's background color, which will go from blue to grey to red and eventually almost black. With each building I also spawned a little human, car, helicopter or plane, which would move around the planet, adding to that feeling of running out of space, overpopulation, and in the planet's case, suffocation. To get them moving around the world, I simply parented the human, for example, to an empty game object placed at the center of the planet, and then rotated that empty game object in a random direction and with a random speed, resulting in the character appearing to move smoothly along the world's surface. So what with the buildings, humans, and planes, the world felt very much alive and throughout the game, more and more in danger. I also ended up adding sparks of lightning to the sky. This was easily done by using a lightning brush in Photoshop, importing those sprites in Unity, then applying some simple animation to that lightning, which would then spawn around the sky every random X amount of seconds. With the core of the game all done, it was time to make menus, scene transitions, sounds and music. After much brainstorming and from time to time tricky coding bugs, this was in contrast pretty relaxing. I decided to make a green happy looking planet with golden humans on top. I wanted to fool the player as much as possible, get him believing this game was really all about strategy, resource management and eventually glory and riches, so that the realization would be all the more shocking. I did leave a few hints though in the menu, notably the fading vegetation on the title evolution, same for the play button. I then made some simple white fade scene transitions. An hour was also spent on a title screen, a link to my channel, and supporting different screen sizes. At this point, I was pretty much done. All I was left to do were the sounds and music. Now, I consider this to be my main weak point when it comes down to game creation. But still, I almost always have fun making weird noises in my microphone using Audacity, and then implementing those sound effects in game. So I made a unique sound for each building that would play when you hover your mouse cursor over it. And then took some time making sounds for the actual planet, going from a jolly, happy sounding fellow into a red bloody face yelling in agony. Sound effects are so important in making the game feel alive. Even poor quality ones are better than nothing. Once having made them all and then muting my game, everything felt a lot less interesting. So always spend at least 1 hour making sounds during a game jam. You don't need to make sounds for everything, just for the main mechanics like shooting, killing enemies, or jumping for example. This will really bring your game to life. Now having still a couple hours remaining before the end of the jam, I figured I would try and make some music using this awesome Irish tool. I've already made a couple musics for my games, but still I had to be careful. I didn't want irritating, ear-splitting music ruining the whole experience I'd worked so hard in creating during the entire weekend. Like with the planet's faces, I wanted to make several stages for my music, starting with a happy, light little soundtrack and gradually darkening everything. And then right at the end, the music would go very high-pitched, frantic and stressful, and finally stop altogether. Once the planet has exploded, the player will hear no sound effect or music. All this to reinforce the fact that the world is no more. And that marked the end of my third Ledamdare behind the scenes video. Now, I had a great time making this game. Not only did I feel myself improve and grow as a developer, but I also came to realize that we still live in a beautiful world, and I'll do my very best to keep it that way. Now, I would love your thoughts and feedback on this creation. Also, if you made a game during this Ledamdare, it would be awesome if you joined the Blackthorn Prod Discord server. A great place to chat with fellow developers and where you can share what you've made. I'll sure love playing your game and giving you feedback. Now, if you enjoy the video, also consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons. It's really appreciated and very motivating, and you'll be able to keep up to date with any future game creation video I upload. You can also support me via Patreon like these top supporters, whom I thanks so much. With that said, have a great day, stay tuned, cheers!